Some offers don't sound dangerous at first. They sound like a whisper, meant only for you. I didn't know her name the first time she spoke to me. I only knew who she belonged to, the CEO's wife. She stood behind me in the elevator, silent, composed, expensive. The kind of woman whose presence bends the air around her. I could smell her perfume before I heard her voice. Not sweet, not loud, something colder, controlled. "Third floor," she said softly. Her reflection met mine in the steel wall. She looked calm. I looked tired. Messy black hair. Hollow eyes. A man who worked too late and felt too little. My black high-collar turtleneck made me look like I belonged to the shadows of the building rather than its light. I'd been feeling invisible for years. That's probably why she noticed me. The elevator stopped. The doors opened. I stepped down, but her voice followed me like a blade sliding from its sheath. "Wait." I turned. She was closer now, close enough that I could see the sadness behind her perfect control. Not loneliness, something sharper, something dangerous. "You work late," she said. I nodded. I didn't ask how she knew. "So do I," she added. Then, after a pause that felt too intentional to be accidental, "We should talk sometime." That night, I told myself it meant nothing. But 2 days later, she was waiting near my desk after everyone had left. The office lights were dim. The city outside the glass walls looked unreal, like a painted backdrop. "I won't waste your time," she said. "I'm not here to flirt." That was the lie. She folded her arms, eyes steady on mine. "My marriage is functional," she said, "but empty." I stayed silent. "I'm not asking for love," she continued. "I'm asking for discretion." The word landed heavy. No names. No promises. No future. Her voice dropped. "Just something real, before I forget what that feels like." I should have walked away. I should have remembered who she was married to. What kind of power surrounded her? What kind of man always loses in stories like this? But in that moment, all I felt was this. For the first time in years, someone saw me. Not the employee. Not the background character. Me. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no either. And that silence? That silence was the beginning of everything I would regret forever.
Every secret relationship survives on rules. This one survived on fear. She chose the place. Not a cafe, not a restaurant. A private lounge on the top floor of a hotel I'd never afford on my salary. Floor-to-ceiling windows. City lights below like a living organism. Power always chooses height. She arrived before me, standing near the window, arms folded, back straight. The kind of posture learned from years of standing beside a man who owned rooms without asking permission. "You came," she said without turning around. "I didn't agree to anything," I replied. She smiled faintly. "Not yet." She poured herself a drink, but didn't offer me one. Rule 1, already forming. "This doesn't happen if you're reckless," she said calmly. "No messages, no gifts, no emotions." She turned then. Her eyes were sharp, observant, measuring how much of me was already lost. "You don't speak to me at work. Ever. You don't follow me. You don't wait for me. If I call, you answer. If I don't, you forget I exist." Each sentence landed like a lock clicking into place. "And my husband?" I asked. Her expression didn't change. "That part is none of your business." I should have left. But something about the way she said husband, not bitter, not angry, just empty, made me stay. She walked closer. "Not touching. Never touching yet." "This isn't romance," she said. "It's survival." That was the moment I understood. She wasn't inviting me into her life. She was creating a hidden room inside it. "I won't ruin you," she continued, "but I won't save you either." Her gaze dropped briefly to my hands. My posture. The fatigue I didn't bother hiding. "You look like someone who's already alone," she said softly. That hurt more than any insult. I nodded. That was my mistake. The first time it happened, it didn't feel dramatic. No music. No passion-filled confessions. Just quiet. A different room. A different night. Curtains drawn tight. Her voice low, controlled, never rushed. She never stayed long. She never slept. She would dress carefully, smoothing out wrinkles like nothing had occurred. And every time she left, she would say the same thing. "Remember the rules." I told myself I could handle it, that I was in control. But something strange started happening. She would ask about my day, remember small details, notice changes. Not affection, attention. And attention is far more dangerous. One night, she asked, Why don't you ask anything about me? I hesitated. You told me not to. She studied me for a long moment. Good, she said. That's why this works. At work, she walked past me like a stranger. Her heels echoed through hallways she owned by marriage, not by choice. She never looked back, never acknowledged me. But sometimes, when no one was watching, her eyes would pause on mine for half a second longer than necessary. That half second destroyed me, because it made me feel chosen. And that's how secrets win. Not by passion, not by desire, but by convincing you that being invisible everywhere else makes you special here. I didn't know it then, but one of her rules was never meant to be kept. And when it broke, everything would bleed. The most dangerous relationships don't promise love, they promise escape. Affairs don't end when someone finds out. They end when someone powerful starts asking questions. The first sign wasn't dramatic. It was a calendar change. A meeting moved from Thursday to Monday. A report suddenly needed extra verification. My access badge took an extra second to unlock doors. Small things. The kind only noticed by people already living carefully. At work, the CEO began walking the floor more often. Not loudly, not suspiciously, just present. He was a man built from discipline. Every movement precise. Every smile calculated. He didn't need to raise his voice to dominate a room. Silence followed him naturally. I kept my head down, did my work, answered questions briefly, never lingered. But I could feel it. That sensation of being evaluated, not observed. One afternoon, he stopped at my desk. How long have you been with the company? He asked. 3 years, I replied. He nodded. Consistent performance. That was all. No accusation. No suspicion. Yet my pulse didn't slow for 10 minutes after he walked away. That night, she called. Her voice was tighter than usual. You need to be more careful, she said. I already am, I replied. No, she corrected. Careful isn't enough anymore. She told me he'd been asking questions. Not about me specifically, but about departments, schedules, people who stayed late. He notices patterns, she said quietly. That's how he built everything. I leaned against the wall of my apartment, staring at nothing. Then ended, I said. Silence. I can't, she replied. That word changed everything. Why? I asked. Because this is the only place I'm not invisible. That was the first selfish thing she'd ever admitted. And the most honest. At work, I started seeing things differently. Security cameras I'd never noticed before. Assistants who remembered too much. Conversations that paused when I entered rooms. I stopped staying late. She didn't like that. You're pulling away, she said one night. I'm protecting myself, I replied. You knew the risk, she said. No, I answered. I knew your rules. Not his world. That night, I dreamed of elevators that never reached the ground floor. Of doors that locked from the outside. I woke up drenched in sweat, my phone buzzing beside me. A message from her. We need to talk. In person. No time. No place. Just urgency. The next day, the CEO announced a restructuring. Departments shifted. Roles reassigned. And my name appeared on a list it didn't belong on. Closer to him. Farther from her. That's when I understood the truth. This wasn't a secret relationship anymore. It was a liability. And in a world built by powerful men, liabilities don't get second chances. Secrets don't scare powerful people. Uncertainty does.
Secrets don't explode. They slip, slowly, until someone notices the sound. It was supposed to be routine. A company dinner. Mandatory attendance. Public smiles. I almost didn't go. But absence draws attention faster than presence. And by then I understood one rule clearly. Don't be memorable. The venue was a private hall downtown. Glass walls, soft lighting, polished floors that reflected power more than people. Everyone dressed like they belonged to something larger than themselves. I stayed near the edge of the room. She arrived late. Always late. Her entrance didn't turn heads loudly, but the room adjusted around her. Conversations shifted. Postures straightened. She wore elegance the way others wore armor. She didn't look at me. That was new. The CEO stood beside her, hand resting lightly at her back. Not possessive. Declarative. Ownership doesn't need force. As speeches began, I felt the tension in my chest tighten. The kind that makes breathing feel optional. Then it happened. The CEO raised his glass. To transparency, he said, smiling. The word felt deliberate. His eyes scanned the room. Not randomly, not warmly. When they reached me, they paused. Just long enough. My pulse spiked. She felt it too. I knew because her hand tightened around her glass. Just slightly. Just enough. Later, near the balcony doors, she finally spoke to me. Not my name. Not even a greeting. You shouldn't be here, she whispered. I work here, I replied quietly. She shook her head. Not tonight. Her phone vibrated. She didn't check it. I think he knows, she said. The words froze the air between us. Knows what? I asked. She met my eyes for the first time that night. And for the first time ever, her control cracked. That I'm not alone. That was all she said. Across the room, the CEO laughed with a board member. Perfect timing. Perfect posture. A man with nothing to fear. I excused myself. In the hallway, the noise faded. The silence was louder. I leaned against the wall, breathing slowly, counting heartbeats like seconds before impact. Footsteps approached. I straightened. It was him. The CEO. Alone. Enjoying the evening? He asked. Yes, I said. Good, he replied. I like knowing my people feel comfortable. My people. He looked at me for a long moment. Not suspicious. Curious. You're doing well here, he said. I hope nothing distracts you. I held his gaze. Nothing does, I answered. He smiled. A small one. Excellent. Then he walked away. That was it. No accusation. No exposure. But I knew. That night didn't end the secret. It confirmed it was being watched. And once power starts watching, it never stops. When nothing happens, that's when you know everything has changed.
Rules exist to protect power. Emotion exists to destroy it. She didn't call for 3 days after the dinner. No message. No signal. At first, I told myself it was good. Distance meant safety. Silence meant survival. But silence has weight. By the fourth night, I noticed how often I checked my phone without realizing it. How the quiet in my apartment felt heavier than before. How I kept replaying the CEO's smile in my head. Calm, knowing, patient. Then the call came. Late. Too late. Can you come over? She asked. Not commanding. Not composed. Just tired. I thought we agreed. I began. I know, she interrupted. Please. That word wasn't part of the rules. I went. Her apartment was darker than usual. Curtains half drawn. No music. No staff. No performance. She was sitting on the couch, shoes off, hair loose, unarmored. You shouldn't have come, she said when she saw me. Then why did you call? I asked. She didn't answer immediately, just stared at her hands like they belonged to someone else. He doesn't touch me anymore, she said suddenly. The sentence landed wrong. Too personal. Too intimate. I didn't ask, I replied. I know, she said softly, but I needed someone to hear it. That was the mistake. She stood, walked toward the window, back to me. I built my life around being useful, she continued. Wife. Symbol. Stability. She laughed quietly. Turns out, usefulness expires. I stayed where I was. This was never meant to feel like this, she said. You weren't meant to matter. Her voice broke on the last word. I felt it then, the shift. This wasn't secrecy anymore. This was dependency. You're changing the rules, I said. She turned to face me. No, she replied. I'm admitting they were lies. She stepped closer. Not touching. Almost. I think about you when I shouldn't, she said. I listen for your footsteps when I know you're not there. That scared me more than the CEO ever had. Stop, I said. She froze. For a moment, I thought she might apologize. Instead, she whispered, Don't disappear on me. There it was. Need. I left that night without staying, without touching her. But as I walked home, one truth burned through every step. She had crossed the line first. And once emotion enters a secret like this, someone always pays for it. Power creates rules. Loneliness breaks them.
Sometimes survival feels like the wrong choice. Sometimes the wrong choice feels like survival. The morning started like any other. I walked into the office, briefcase in hand, coat buttoned. A black coffee steamed gently in my other hand. Everyone around me moved with efficiency, smiling politely, nodding at the higher-ups. The usual, safe, dull rhythm. But nothing felt safe anymore. She had called again the night before. Quietly, almost pleading. I had ignored the urge to answer immediately. I told myself it was for my own protection. Yet as I walked through the glass doors, I could already feel the weight of her need pressing against me. She appeared briefly in the lobby, walking with the precision of someone used to being noticed. Her eyes caught mine for a second. That second nearly made me stop. I didn't. Instead, I walked past her. Pretended I hadn't seen. Pretended I hadn't felt. It was supposed to be a choice. Control. Safety. Survival. Later that afternoon, she cornered me in a quiet hallway. No one else around. The polished floor reflected our figures like distorted twins. "You can't keep ignoring me," she said softly, voice trembling just enough to make me pause. "I can," I replied firmly. "You think this protects you?" "Yes," I said, and I meant it. Or so I told myself. She stepped closer, closer than the rules allowed. The air around her carried a subtle warning, a danger I couldn't name, but could feel in my chest. "I need you," she said. I froze. Every fiber in me screamed to leave, to run, to maintain distance. Yet the words lingered, sinking into the cracks I thought I had sealed. I made a choice. I placed a hand lightly on her arm. Not too close. Not a touch that promised anything. Just enough to acknowledge her. Her eyes widened for a moment, not with surprise, but with something else. Gratitude, relief, need. All three. That touch broke everything. Not immediately, not visibly, but somewhere deep, the rules I had lived by began to fracture. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Emails, meetings, the CEO's eyes scanning, yet not questioning. But I could feel the consequences accumulating. Every glance she gave afterward was different. Every pause, every breath around me carried unspoken weight. I had protected her. I had protected myself. And yet, I knew I had also crossed the line. Because rules aren't broken by accident. Rules are broken by choices. And choices always leave a mark. That night, I sat in my apartment alone, staring at the faint reflection of the city lights on the window. My hand still tingled from her skin. My chest felt heavier than the weight of the day. Regret didn't arrive all at once. It lingered. It waited. And when it hit, it would hit harder than anything I had yet experienced. Some choices are made to save ourselves, but they only carve scars that never heal.
Secrets don't explode. They leak. Slowly, deliberately. It started with small changes. A pause too long during meetings. A look held half a second more than necessary. Silence that used to feel empty now felt watched. I noticed it before anyone said anything. She had stopped calling, not because she didn't need me, but because she didn't want to be seen needing me. That was worse. At work, the CEO began appearing more often. Not directly involved, not interfering, just present. A hand on a shoulder here. A question asked twice instead of once. Observation disguised as concern. One afternoon, I was summoned to his office. No urgency, no explanation. His office overlooked the city, glass, steel, and distance. He gestured for me to sit. "You've been valuable," he said casually, eyes still on the skyline. Past tense. "Thank you," I replied. He turned then, smiled faintly. "Tell me," he said, "do you believe loyalty is something people choose or something they reveal under pressure?" The question wasn't abstract. "I believe loyalty is proven by restraint," I answered. He nodded slowly, as if I'd said something interesting. "Good," he said, "because restraint is rare." I left the office knowing one thing clearly. He didn't know everything, but he knew enough. That evening, she found me first. Not in private, not in shadows, in a crowded elevator. Her shoulder brushed mine. Accidental. Strategic. "You shouldn't avoid me like this," she whispered, eyes fixed forward. "You shouldn't speak to me here," I replied without turning. She exhaled sharply. "You're afraid." "No," I said. "I'm awake." The doors opened. People spilled out. She stayed behind for a fraction too long. That fraction was noticed. Later that night, I received a message from an unknown number. "Be careful who you think is watching. Some people don't need proof, just patterns." I stared at the screen until it went dark. That's when I understood. This was no longer about desire, or loneliness, or even regret. This was about exposure. She wanted comfort. He wanted control. And I was standing exactly where both paths crossed. The worst part? I had made the choice myself. And consequences don't rush. They wait until you're sure you can handle them. The danger of a secret isn't discovery. It's realizing too late who's been watching all along.
You don't run because you're weak. You run because you finally understand the price of staying. The warning didn't leave my mind. It followed me into meetings, into silence, into sleep. Every conversation felt rehearsed. Every smile felt measured. I stopped reacting, not because I wasn't afraid, but because fear had learned my routines. Then she broke the rule again. This time, she didn't approach me. She waited where escape wasn't possible.
The underground parking garage. Cold concrete. Low ceiling. Cameras everywhere. Or maybe nowhere at all. You're being tested, she said quietly, standing beside my car. I know, I replied. They won't move yet. They're waiting to see what you do. What you do, I corrected. She looked away. For the first time, she wasn't powerful. She was trapped by her own choices. Leave, she said suddenly. Transfer. Disappear. I can make it clean. I laughed once. No humor in it. And you? She didn't answer. That was my answer. The next morning, the email arrived. Internal review. Departmental reassignment. Temporary leave. No accusations. No explanations. A professional pause. Exposure without a name. I packed my desk slowly. People avoided eye contact. Rumors don't need proof, only silence. As I stepped into the elevator for the last time, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. You were offered a door. Most people don't realize when it closes behind them. I didn't reply. Outside, the city moved like nothing had happened. But something had. I hadn't been exposed. Not yet. But escape had a cost too. And I was finally ready to pay my own price. Not hers, not his. Small blue diamond, end of chapter 8 line, exposure and secrets. Escape reveals who you were protecting all along. Truth doesn't knock. It slips in through cracks you forgot to seal. I thought distance would quiet things. It didn't. It sharpened them. 2 days into my temporary leave, my name appeared where it shouldn't have, whispered in corridors I no longer walked through. Not accusations. Questions. Why was I reassigned so quietly? Why did the CEO's wife cancel 3 events the same week? Why were internal logs suddenly being reviewed? Patterns don't need proof. They only need time. She called me at night. Her voice wasn't soft anymore. They're circling, she said. Someone leaked fragments. Not enough to destroy me, but enough to connect dots. Did you? I asked. A pause. No, she said. And this time, I believed her. The next morning, a senior compliance officer requested a private conversation. Off the record, we sat in a cafe across from the building, neutral ground, neutral faces. You didn't initiate anything, he said carefully. But you didn't stop it early enough either. I sipped my coffee. Bitter. Familiar. So what happens now? That depends, he replied, on whether the truth finishes forming or disappears. Later that day, I received another message. Different number. Same tone. You should have taken the exit when it was offered. I finally understood. This wasn't about morality. It wasn't even about scandal. It was about control. And control hates loose ends. That night, I deleted everything. Messages. Logs. Numbers. Not to hide guilt. To survive the next move. Because by morning, I knew one thing clearly. Someone was going to be exposed. And it wouldn't be accidental. Small blue diamond, end of chapter 9 line. When silence starts talking, someone is about to lose everything.
Some choices don't save you. They decide who pays. The meeting was scheduled for 8:30 a.m. No subject line. No agenda. Just a room. And the people who controlled what happened next. I arrived early. Not out of respect. Out of clarity. The CEO didn't look at me when I entered. His wife sat 2 chairs away, hands folded, face unreadable. This wasn't a confrontation. It was a calculation. Compliance spoke first. Information has surfaced, he said. Partial. Fragmented. Enough to suggest impropriety, not enough to confirm intent. Silence followed. Then the CEO's wife stood. I initiated contact, she said calmly. I crossed a professional boundary. He attempted to disengage. The room shifted. I hadn't expected that. Not because she was protecting me, but because she was protecting herself. The CEO finally turned toward me. You had opportunities, he said, to speak, to expose, to negotiate. I did, I replied. I chose not to. Why? I met his eyes. Because power doesn't forgive honesty. It punishes inconvenience. The vote happened without ceremony. No scandal. No press. She resigned quietly. A narrative was written that excluded me completely. By noon, my reassignment became a voluntary exit with compensation. Clean. I walked out carrying nothing but my jacket. Outside, the city felt loud again. Alive. Weeks later, I saw her once, from across the street. She looked smaller. Not defeated. Just human. She didn't approach. Neither did I. Some stories don't end with closure. They end with understanding. And that was enough. I didn't win. I walked away with my name. And that was the only prize that mattered.